All right, let's see. I'm gonna go kind of quick here. All right, there should be a W on this minion wave. You've been here about 3 seconds. So here's the thing. Is think about it this way, Ghastly, okay? As Jaina, in the early game, your W has 2 purposes. It is to clear minion waves and to kill people. You have a Varian level 4, like before level 4. You are not killing anybody. Okay, Varian is a melee minion for the first 3 levels of the game. The only way you kill someone is if the enemy team just like giga trolls and somehow lets you like get a bunch of free damage or like walk under towers or something. So the second you walk up, boom, boom, W on the minion wave. And then for the first 1 to 3 levels, I can't remember, it's like the first 2 or 3 levels of the game, W on its own isn't enough damage to clear a minion wave. So at the start of the game, you WE the minion wave. You just do WE and then you just walk away. Like, if your teammate is there to get you the globe, that's great. You can stick around for the globe. But other than that, you just walk away and you go to the other lane. So already right here, there should have been a WE on the minion wave. And then now there's no reason to stay. There's no reason to keep being here because this W right here should be going on this. And instead you stayed in too long, took in a bunch of extra damage, so you end up missing the macro right here. And this forces me to play the macro right here rather than being able to play the giants down here. If you had covered this, then I would have been able to gank bottom, maybe get a kill, most likely not, it's Urel and I have a Varian, but I would have been able to get this, and that would have made our early game macro go a lot better. But that is how you should think about your W in the early game. My W is only for waves and kills. Maybe camps if you're like forced to take a camp. You get the idea though. A lot of people use W for poke, or they save W for a kill that isn't going to happen, like here. And your job as Jaina in maps like this, like as long as it's not a map where you can't double soak, your job in the early game is to double soak. You run to a minion wave, you press W. You run to the other minion wave, you press W. You run back to the other minion wave, you press W. And for like the first 2 levels of the game, maybe 3, because again, I can't remember exactly how much, W doesn't solo kill the wave, so you throw in an E on top of that. And that's also how you stack this, Fingers of Frost. This playstyle is directly encouraged by the level 1 talent that you took. So here I wouldn't bother blizzarding this because Blizzard again has a kind of long cooldown. Looks like you didn't, that's good. And I would just walk down and just blizzard mid. That's all you gotta do. Yeah, this takes like way longer to wave clear because you don't clear it. And ideally, if we had to do the situation that we were doing this game where one person is off soaking these 2 lanes and everyone else is grouping, you want someone that actually has enough clear. What I'm saying is if anybody was going to do what I was doing this game, it should have been you clearing mid-top. And so right here, like I'm kind of forced to play the macro game because our Jaina's not clearing waves. And then now, remember those same giants where I said if you had cleared this earlier, I would have been able to take them? Well, now they're being used against us, and now we're in this super awkward situation that our comp just can't deal with. And from this point in the game, we just get macro steamrolled. They consistently stay ahead of us. And that macro advantage means that they're always up on us in experience, and that we are consistently forced back to clear lanes. And because those 2 things are happening, we consistently have to fight either down a talent or down a person, and that causes us to lose. In my opinion, we could stop watching the replay right here. And we've already talked about enough of substance that needs to change to matter for the entire game, to significantly improve your Jaina gameplay. I'm not even kidding. What has happened in these first 2 minutes of gameplay set the stage for how the entire game went. Because those macro advantages that they gained right here played out throughout the entire game. And if we keep watching, we're just going to see more of the same. Like, I'm not saying, like there are going to be other things that we'll see as we go through here. But by and large, that is the most important stuff, in my opinion. Right there, you stayed up like super aggro. All right, please, HotS gods, please no balloon bumper, boys. I beg of you. Please. I'm going to press this B key. I'm going to go back 10 seconds. No balloon bumper voice, please. Okay, some balloon bumper boys. There's one over Urel. There's one instead of this wall here, but altogether not a terrible result. Okay. Urel's just got this statically sized orb over her head. I love it. Okay, so right here, you're gonna rotate up to this fight and you're gonna stand in danger for a long period of time. Remember, there's a wall right here. This isn't what it looks like. So you walk up and you stand directly in this Blaze's line of sight for like a few seconds, just kind of standing there casting abilities, and then get out. It's like 2 seconds. That's enough for you to die. Right there, it's just, that's like playing melee as like one of the squishiest characters in the game. And also, you're a character that doesn't need to stay in the front line for a super long time. That's one of the cool things about Jaina, is you can step up aggressively sometimes because you do all your burst in less than half a second. You literally just go up and just go blah, and just hit your keyboard with your face. Literally just QWE all on top of an enemy character and then walk away. That's it. So if you're gonna participate in that fight, what I would probably do is either curl around this way, or if time demands it, curl up this way, drop your full burst, and then immediately turn around. But you kind of like walk up, hesitate for a sec, and then cast your abilities a little bit off, and then stay in, and then you get wrecked. Whereas if you just walk up and just blah, and just drop all your stuff and then walk out, it's a lot safer. Let's see. Let's fast forward so you're back in lane. I wonder, so only the stuff that was in view, right? Like, it looks like only stuff that was near the camera? No, because this got changed out. I was going to say, if only stuff near the camera gets, like, goofed up, then I was going to say we could just go over here, just, like, stick the camera in the corner and then do the B, but no, I see, like, random stuff getting got around the map. Okay. Let's take a look. We're watching Jaina again. Let me see it again. No balloon bumper, boys, please. Please, HotS gods. Wait, did we fix them? Hey, we went back in and we fixed the balloons. Pog. Okay, so let's look at this kill right here. So remember, as Jaina, you have 2 big purposes, right? You're either clearing waves or following up on kills. So with this composition that we have right here, there's basically one time that you're using your abilities aggressively on the enemy team. Ideally, obviously there's going to be situations where you're forced to use them, but the ideal scenario is that you wait for Variant to taunt, and then you just vomit all your abilities on the person Variant taunts, which I believe happens right here. And so right there, Variant taunted someone. You didn't go for the full burst, I kind of get it, but at that point, all you really did was just a W. And if you're just going to poke on the sideline with some of your abilities, like with one-off casts of your abilities, Jaina's not that character. Jaina is a combo mage. Jaina specifically, and her trait tries to incentivize you to do that, right? Because if you have hit the target with one of your other abilities in the last 4 seconds, then all of your new abilities like do 50% more damage. What this means is use all your abilities at the same time, or at least within 4 seconds of each other, right? But typically just within the same frame. Partially, and you want to line it up with CC, because if you don't use CC, then only one wave of Blizzard is going to hit. And that's exactly what we saw right here, right? You Blizzarded Blaze, and only one wave hit. The only way that more than one wave would hit is if they had some other reason to stand still, like they were killing your teammates or whatever. But if you're playing Jaina, you're playing it to clear waves and follow up on tank CC with your damage. Those are like the 2 things you have to do. And those 2 things aren't happening this game. So again, right there, you saw how W by itself could have cleared that wave, I'm pretty sure. Like post level 6, you can definitely just W a wave and it dies. And it's a little bit more mana efficient. It takes slightly longer. Like if you're in a time sensitive situation, you can absolutely E the wave so that it dies faster, so that way you can leave faster. If you're not in a time sensitive situation, just W the waves. And that's it. That's literally the only thing you have to do. So right here, I would just W this wave. Yeah, see, the E is unnecessary. There's not really anything forcing you to leave super, super quick. So it's just a little bit of unnecessarily spent mana for things that are going to die anyway. You're getting some siege right here. Please don't W this gate. Oh. Like I said, think of it literally, it's only allowed to be used on minions and kills for the most part, unless you're in just a ridiculously free situation. Because Blizzard, and this is part of the reason why I like Ice Fury Wand so much at 7. I'm going to take away my camera just for a second so we can read Ice Fury Wand. So right here, basic attacks against chilled enemies deal 50% more damage and lower the cooldown of Blizzard by 1.25 seconds, doubled against enemy heroes. What I really, really like about this talent that I think makes Jaina so much more forgiving to play and so much easier to play is that your basic attacks lower the cooldown of Blizzard. Like that particular part, the lowered cooldown on Blizzard. Because Blizzard as it stands kind of needs to be just about perfect with when you decide to use it if you're on this baseline 15-second cooldown. Because think about it this way, okay? A minion wave approaches every 30 seconds. A minion wave approaches every 30 seconds. But So that means there's 2 minion waves per minute, right? But if you're double soaking, then you're dealing with 2 minion waves. So if you have 2 minion waves, or you have 2 lanes. If you have 2 lanes and each one gets 2 waves of minions per minute, you're having to clear out 4 minion waves every minute, which is a 15-second interval. Blizzard is perfectly cooldowned in such a way that if you are double soaking, you're basically using it on CD, and if you ever mess up even once, if you put Blizzard on a gate, if you use Blizzard for poke, if you use Blizzard for something that's not a kill, because kills get you macro advantage, so it kind of works out. Blizzard has a cooldown in such a way that if you mess up with the cooldown usage at all, it throws your wave clear out of whack. And that's kind of why I like Ice Fury Wand, is it makes it a lot less punishing to mess up your wave clear. But typically, as Jaina, a lot of times you're just going W, 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 back and forth between the lanes. And you need to be pretty much perfect about that, or else the Blizzard CDR really screws you over. Let's see, where's Jaina? Oh, down here, okay. That was good. I think you stay in a little too long. Because, like, think about it. What do you do in a damage trade versus these heroes, right? Do you ever out-trade these heroes in terms of damage? Meaning, if you both walk up to each other, you do some damage, they do some damage, do you ever win that? Versus Yrel Kael'thas? Maybe if you EQ. Like, maybe if you combine your Cone of Cold and your Q, that is, like, the only feasible way. And into a Kael'thas, even then, he just living bomb spams you, and you're gonna lose the lane trade. So you took a little too long coming back to gate here, and you also overextend out past your gate right here into heroes that you will never positively trade damage with. It is always going to be a loss whenever you sit in front of these particular characters, unless you just like walk up and EQ Yrel, but Yrel can just heal off the damage that you deal anyway. So there is no realistic situation where you deal more damage to these guys, you get more value out of your damage than these guys do back onto you. So now because you overextended, you're missing some health right there, you feel like you gotta tap. Good job not Wing this, because this is what you want to W. So we just go ahead, we drop a W over here, we can EQ these things. Let's see, what's our talents look like? Okay, we do have Ice Fury, nice, nice, nice. Unfortunate E-miss, just a little bit too short range. Good job picking up the gems. Oh yeah, good job walking away. If I were you, I would honestly have already, like a couple seconds ago, just gone over here through this hallway, up out of here, and I would have started just clearing these. There's no way you're rotating out of this lane through here in this moment. It's way too dangerous, and you're basically the maximum value that you can get if you stay bottom in this situation is that you can help clear a lane that your teammates are already clearing. And so now Tracer's stuck in the off lane again. And you can see Jaina's not really going to do anything in defending this push. You're going to help clear out one lane when you would have gotten more done just clearing out the other lanes. You could have literally just walked up, W on a web weaver, W the other web weaver, and just do that back and forth, and that would have been more than what you did bot lane. I hate that I can't see Varian's taunt cooldown from here. That's very annoying. Or can I? Does it show up in the little like little mini slot right there? Let's see. He used taunt, and it does show up in the mini slot. Okay. That was just a weird taunt. I don't really blame you for finding that kind of awkward. Right there, that was called a naked cast. This is actually like one of the biggest differentiators between competitive players and non-competitive players, is if you use an ability that needs ally CC to work, and nice, we just lost this entire wall. Did we lose the other one? We did, nice. At least there's consistency. But there, right here, you're gonna throw a blizzard right here. It's called a naked cast when you have nothing setting it up, making it more useful. And by doing this, all you're doing is basically guaranteeing that you're useless for like the next 15 seconds. You don't do a lot to kill people, especially pre-10 with just EQ. It's like a little bit of a damage trade, like I said. The only way this is ever a good idea, just like poke casting Blizzard on people that are not CC'd is if they were to hypothetically just like walk up and stand at it, which they won't, right? So it's not a good idea. And naked casting is something that happens all the time in SL where you have no setup whatsoever and you just throw out an ability because people are really bad. Like they will stand in it, they will spread bomb to their allies, they will get hit by stuff that they can dodge. But generally, the more you improve, the more you'll find yourself using your abilities in tune with your teammates' crowd control. Stuff like stuns, roots, that kind of thing. The more you play a character who needs setup to do damage, the more you are going to realize that where that setup comes from is your teammates, and you have to wait for them to CC and go off that. My thought process was just zoning them off, chasing us down. I could definitely see it. If you're gonna get chased down by the enemy team, the best possible thing you can do is just get off of your teammates so that you don't also get hit by the Blaze E, and then dropping Blizzard on them, because just like you saw earlier, there was a fight right here where Blaze came in, stunned your teammates, and then he was just standing there on top of your team, and then you Blizzarded him without any setup. While that one earlier still should have been a Blizzard on the taunt that happened a few seconds before that, the thought process there was, he wants to stand right here on my team, so I'm going to Blizzard right here on my team. It makes a little more sense when he's in a bit more of a confined area and he has a reason for standing there. But if you're in an open area and you drop the Blizzard here, it's not a confined area, they have no reason for standing there, they can just walk around it, and you now don't have it if they actually go in on you. So the highest priority there was just not being on top of your teammates so you won't also get hit by the jet propulsion, and having Blizzard so that when they do go in on your team and they actually have a reason for wanting to stand in a specific place, i.e. to kill your team, then you can Blizzard on that. Is the fix to the balloon bumper voice just to keep pressing B until it works? Should I have realized this all along? If I press B again and they're gone, let's go. Okay, well that's really useful to know for the future. Also, Ghastly, if you've been saying stuff, this is the first message I saw from you. If you said stuff about the earlier game stuff, I totally missed it. In fact, I'm going to scroll through my chat a little bit just to make sure that there were no specific questions. Looks like we are good. Okay. All right, let's get back into the game. You got a little close for comfort right there, but it's not a big deal. This wave would have been cleared quicker if we just let it walk into the fort, but regardless. Yeah, right here, right here. Boom, boom, boom. Vomit everything. Go, go, go. Yeah. It is unfortunate doing that into a blaze without your tracer, so I can understand the skepticism, but that follow-up was a little bit late. Like, don't half-ass the follow-up, especially not as Jaina, right? Like, you either need to drop your abilities right then, or if you drop it late, like as the taunt is dying and you get one hit of Blizzard, all you're really guaranteeing is that Blizzard's not really going to do anything. So that one, in my opinion, just needed a little more decisiveness. Either you're following up on the variant or you're not. The balloons are a continuation of the Christmas event. Seems good. Let's see, what's the globe status? Yeah, 15? If you're double soaking, think about it. If you get every single globe while double soaking, you're getting 4 globes a minute. Obviously that's a little bit ideal, but between getting the globes from those waves and even from camps that you can always swing by, it's not unrealistic to get like 3 globes a minute. This should realistically be completed by like 5 minutes in this kind of scenario where you're a Jaina on towers. And at this point, because you have a tracer on boss, you know for a fact that you do not want to fight the enemy team. So there's not much reason in being around them to fight, which you're not, that's good. And you should instead be looking entirely at what you can do macro-wise. So right here, clearing this wave, taking this bruiser camp, these are both very good things to do. And it looks like that's what's being done. I personally wish we had somebody on the bruiser camp, but I think that's partially on the team. Let's see. Yeah, this is pretty good. I think that second Blizzard was a little unnecessary. But let's see, you do have Ice Fury Wand. Yeah, it's on a 5-second CD. You're okay. Yeah, that rotational path right there, you can tell by how the Urel zoned you out, how the second you saw someone, you had to turn around. That rotational path was a little aggro. The only reason I would go this way from having just cleared out bot lane into my team is if I could see that the teams were about to fight like right now and I just needed to show up. Otherwise, you can afford to take this long route. Right here, this is kind of risky, but the team is fighting, so I think it makes sense. And again, it's kind of the same situation as before. You do get bailed out a little bit by Zarya, but like Jaina's a hero that doesn't really need to stay in once she does her burst combo that much. You do get value out of Ice Fury, but I think that at least you should have been stutter stepping after you got that. Stutter stepping up and towards here. Let me see. I kind of want to back up and look at it again. Okay, we're gonna back up one more time to clear out the bumper boys. Okay, cool. It works with such consistency. That's crazy. Okay, yeah. So you come up right here. Taunt was already used before you were able to get there. That sucks, but hey, what I would probably do is W right here. So think about it this way. Not only are ally CCs set up, but enemy self CCs are set up. Right? And that's kind of a weird way to think about it because you never really get told that, but it's absolutely true. When enemies CC themselves, that is set up. And it's like, okay, well, what does that even mean? Think about it this way. Stukov self-roots during Lurking Arm. He cannot move. Meaning that if you Blizzard on the Lurking Arm Stukov, he is forced to either drop it or walk away. So if I was in this situation where I saw that my Tracer was kill pressuring the Kael'thas, and I saw this Stukov Lurking Arming, I would drop Blizzard right here. So as to help follow up on the Kael'thas, and help punish that Stukov for staying in that Lurking Arm, forcing him to make the choice between either taking the full damage or dropping the Lurking Arm, both of which he does not want to do. And so I would just go WEQ, and I would drop the Q on this Kael'thas. Just W right here, E right here, so it hits both of them, and then Q the Kael'thas. Instead, there's like a W, and then there's like some dancing. I didn't actually see what the E did. Come on, no bumpers. Are we just going to alternate back and forth? Bumpers, no bumpers, bumpers, no bumpers? Is that what's going to happen? Yes, it is. All right. So we go back another 10 seconds, and then the bumpers are gone. Yay, like clockwork. All right. So let's look at how we go into this team fight again. Don't you want to Q before E? I believe E does more damage. I don't know the math off the top of my head. Like, if Jaina trait math says to do the abilities in some certain order, then like, sure, go for that. I'm purely talking about what you want to do, and you can rearrange the abilities in the specific order that works best for Jaina math. Like, ideally that would mean your Blizzard hits first, but your Blizzard has a bit of a delay, so then your second least hard hitting ability is Q. But like, you could easily Blizzard, let the first one hit, and then EQ onto the Kael right there. So right here, again, let's look at the situation. Boom, we see Pulse Bomb coming out. You follow up with Blizzard on this and on this. And the thing is, if the Kael'thas does what he's doing and goes left to avoid the Blizzard, then you already kill him, basically, because he has to overextend into enemy territory. He's not getting out of that. So you need a W here. You need to E. You need to Q. You need to drop your R. And that happened pretty quick. But not quick enough, in my opinion. Like, Jaina in general, it's like I know I joke a lot about like vomiting on your keyboard and smashing your face, but when you see good Jaina players, it almost literally is like they see a character and they just go QWER, just like that when you see somebody. Whereas there was a little bit of hesitation and disjointedness, and that small amount actually does allow them to escape a lot of damage that they otherwise would not have been able to. Let's see. Ooh, this is scary. Yeah, at this point I would run. Like, you're staying in for auto attacks. Like, you keep going back into auto attack when these auto attacks are not going to save anybody's life. They're not going to kill anyone. They're not going to change any outcomes. The only thing that these autos that you keep walking back in to do are accomplishing is risking your life. That's basically the only thing that's happening. And yeah, I see a message about quick cast. In my opinion, playing Jaina with quick cast is basically a necessity. It's a lot harder to just like drop all your abilities at the same time on normal cast. But yeah, the only thing that's happening here with those autos is death, just like risking death. And in general, I find that that's a pretty good way to evaluate your plays, is just ask yourself, what could have accomplished here? Like, assume everything went right. What could have happened? And that all of a sudden will illuminate your eyes to a lot of plays that just are doomed to fail. Like this is a super, super big thing, in my opinion, that a lot of players could learn from, is literally just asking yourself when you go on a play, if everything went right, everything realistically went right, would we even get the kill? And there are plenty of plays that players go on where, like, even if they did literally everything perfectly, they landed every ability and all that, they still would not get the kill, or they still would die, which automatically means it is a bad idea. It is doomed to fail conceptually. Or there are plays that have no possible gain and only have negatives. Man, why did I take forever to go in on this Yrel? I was like sitting there clearing minions instead of killing the Yrel. Okay, let's take another look at the build so far. You still haven't picked your 13, actually. Just don't go Stormfront. Some Jainas really like Stormfront, I do not. Although it does help your ability to follow up. Ice Barrier, I can kind of see Ice Barrier if you have to duel people that are getting up in your face a lot, but if you're against a team that doesn't really have any dive, like they have a Yrel, which is like the closest thing to dive on that team, and even then she's not really going like a divey build, like she doesn't have like ECDR7 or anything like that. If you're into a team with 0 dive and you feel the need to take Ice Barrier, you're probably trolling something. This is one of the best 13s in the game right here, Icy Veins. I'm not going to bother taking my camera away, but this right here, Icy Veins behind my camera, is ridiculously strong. It's a lot of extra damage. Some Jainas like Stormfront. I think the best argument for Stormfront is the range. You can either use the range to catch people and slow them for kills, like it slows them enough for your team to go in on them, or it means that even if your tank engages on someone that's really far away, you can still follow up on the engage, at least with the blizzard. Like if you're a Nubarak, dive someone at full range, you could Stormfront off of that to still follow up. But realistically, your Nubarak should only be diving people that are in your range. But of course, a lot of Nubaraks that you're not coordinated with won't bother with that. They're just going to go on the first shiny thing they see. Regardless, I think this was probably an Icy Veins game at level 13. Icy Veins is just ridiculously good. And Ice Barrier, like I said, can someone get it if you have to duel someone in the backline consistently, but that's not the case with this enemy draft. Right here, Jaina's going to get the turn in. I think Zarya should have leashed this. After she like did that fight, I think Zarya should have walked over, started this siege camp, and then we would have been able to have a siege camp pushing during this objective. And we need all the macro we can get. Okay, we're just chipping away at this bruiser camp. Ooh, you're kind of deep in there. You don't really have a lot of mana. Yeah. Like one burst combo and you're out of mana at this situation. I want to see, what were you doing for like the 30 seconds leading up to this, actually? I rewounded 20 seconds, let's see. Let's go back there. This will take a second. We've got some bumpers, so we're going to go back another 10 seconds just to clear those out. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm trying to think if there's a time that, like, there was an obvious moment where you should have backed to get more mana. That's what I'm looking for right here. It's like, here you chip that guy, whatever. You need to go get your turn in after. I think probably right after turn, like you said, is when you just hearth. Yeah, right here. You just go hearth, in my opinion. Or you just don't use a lot of mana clearing this, but it wouldn't surprise me if you do. There's an E. Yeah, just as you chip away at this, you're going to slowly lose mana. You do help clear it out, it just loses you a lot of mana. And the thing is, this mana issue would not be as much of an issue. You actually are completed on this. But completing that does help solve the mana issues, but you do have it completed, so that's a moot point. And now by this point, we don't have any mana. And this is also one really nice point about Water Elemental, is that, like, if you notice there, right there, Water Elemental was hitting Yrel, and it was actually building your shield damage. You could hear the questings going off. That's one thing that's really nice about Jaina, is like, a lot of times Jaina played right in the early game does not have a lot of hero damage, which means you're not very progressed on your Frostbite chill quest. And then, because this like bar right here that you can see my cursor at in the bottom left, that's your Frostbite Chill quest. You're at 12k out of 15k damage. Like, you won't complete that in the early game because you're just clearing waves all the time, but then in the late game, you deal so much teamfight damage, especially with Ice Fury Wand and Water Elemental, that you build that chill quest really fast, even though you weren't progressing it a lot in the early game. So I just wanted to point that out, since it helps make it okay to constantly clear waves, and you still don't lose access to Ice Block late. And see, like, right here, like, what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? With, like, this mana pool? At this point, you're going to, like, very awkwardly sort of stumble around, not really want to cast on anything, and if the tank goes in, you have the ability to follow up once. With a single cast of abilities. I would, like, at this point, I would be spam pinging the shit out of my team to retreat and just hearthing. Yeah. And so that's kind of the problem with certain ults, just in general. If you pop an ult when the enemy team doesn't have to fight you, then if the enemy team walks away, you're just down an ult, which is exactly what happened right there with Water Elemental, right? Like, the enemy team was under no specific duress to fight you. They had no reason to specifically stay. So you popped Water Elemental and they just walked away, and now you just don't have Water Elemental, and you're now very low on mana. And that's a huge problem, and that back right there was incredibly lazy. That back was like that close to being an int, by the way. If you're gonna back, you 100% need to go a little farther. That's called a lazy back right there, when you don't get all the way to safety, and it can punish you. You got lucky that time. Let's see. Where's Jaina? I was looking at myself. Where's Jaina? Tell me we go that Route 16. See it again right there. It's just an unnecessary E on the minion wave. You're still holding Talon. So, okay, you just picked it. Northern Exposure is really good. The minus armor, like, it is really good, don't get me wrong. It's just like there's two specific things that it's really good at. It's really good at when you're deleting people off of ally CC when you're playing to maximize that burst, which I don't think has happened at all this game. And then of course there's what you mentioned where you can shred armor. Shredding armor is pretty nice, and Urel does have armor, and Blaze has armor, and enemies getting outside of bunker have armor. I just don't think it's going to do nearly as much as getting the root. The root is super good. The root keeps people away from bunker. It stops them from diving on your team. Like, in my opinion, you have to make a hard case not to go root in SL. That is how I personally view Jaina 16s. Is you need a very compelling reason not to go Numbing Blast. Northern Exposure is really good, and if you have a comp that's like kill the Garrosh or kill the, I don't know, Deathwing, hypothetically, which there are comps that do that, then like sure, if you're playing a lot for killing people off of ally burst. Also, if you pick Snowstorm, you don't deserve to play this character, since I see someone say that in chat. This talent is deceptively hot garbage. But anyway, the root is super good. The minus root is really good when you're playing off of ally CC. And the less you're playing in conjunction with your teammates, the less value it's gonna get. Especially to burst a target like Urel, who has Ardent Defender, meaning that you have to actually just CC Urel from the start of the burst to the very end, and if you don't, then she doesn't die. And that is something that you can do. Like, there are definitely comps that have a lot of CC, and the players have a lot of coordination with each other, so you can CC chain down a Urel from like 60 to 0, no problem. This is not one of those comps. The only stun that you guys have, it's not really a stun, but we'll call it a stun. The only stun you guys have is Taunt. And that doesn't chain with anything else. Like, no one else gives you any CC, arguably expulsion zone, kind of like while they're being knocked back to their stun, but you're not going to expulsion zone on the person that you're burst killing. So you're never going to chain CC Yrel down to burst her. She's always going to be able to get the chance to Ardent Defender your burst combo unless she just massively ints. So Northern Exposure, it's good. Armor reduction is good into high armor heroes, but the situation of chain CCing down a Yrel so that she can't Ardent Defender to survive it just isn't going to happen. Especially when you consider the fact that you're also against a Blaze, and whenever anybody gets inside the bunker, obviously they're not getting affected by that armor reduction, but it also cleanses the armor reduction. So Root, they can't get in the bunker, they can't even walk toward the bunker while they're rooted, and Root's just insanely good anyway. So like I said, I think you need to have a strong argument against Numbing Blast to consider not picking it, and this game was not a strong argument against Numbing Blast. Northern Exposure, based on your playstyle with this variant, and based on the enemy heroes that you're up against, does not do much. There was a naked cast to the Blizzard. Let's see. Yeah, this Blizzard doesn't hit any heroes, and it doesn't hit the wave either. Let's see. Let's clear this out. And then at this point, this is just where we start struggling to stay in the game. And at this point, the rest of this game would just be like nitpicking specific teamfight positioning, which is important. It's just, in my opinion, a lot less information dense than everything we've already talked about. Like, I think that if we continue to talk about how the rest of the game went, it'll be like 5% of the overall picture to add like an extra like 15 minutes. It's just going to be more of like follow up on Varian, keep your mana high, you know, burst your abilities together, talking about the build. Let's skip forward just a little bit to see what that 20 is. We'll talk about the 20, and then I think I'm going to call it there. Yeah, Kelthet, that's what I was saying. Like, there can be an argument for Northern Exposure. This game just was not it. Wintermute is really good. Yeah. So, just going to talk about Jaina 20s really quick once this is done loading. Okay, so let's look at Wintermute really quick, or really just Jaina 20s. Again, I'm going to turn off my camera so we can take a look at those without my camera in the way. Cold Snap is kind of just like, if enemy team is bad, Cold Snap is insane. If enemy team is not bad, it doesn't really do a lot. Cold Snap just makes the center do more, and if the enemy team isn't bad, usually this isn't going to do a lot. I could see the argument for this being more area control, it just doesn't compare. The hard part is like when Jaina goes ring, her 20 tier kind of sucks. Deep Chill doesn't really do a lot. Ice Blink is the shortest range blink in the game. It literally has like, what, like 4 range, 6 range, something like that. It's like a Rainer auto attack, basically. Cold Snap, or Ice Blink, I think is really useful in some matchups. It just doesn't go nearly as fast as, or nearly as far as you might think. I don't know when Cold Snap got CDR. Basically, the way I view Jaina 20s is either Wintermute or Ice Blink if you absolutely have to. I almost never go Ring of Frost because, in my opinion, to pick Ring of Frost, just like I talked about before with the naked casting, you need a setup. Like, if you've got like a Zeratul with Void Prison, if you've got a Medivh with Leyline Seal, if you've got a Mei with Ice Wall, these things can act as setup and you can use Ring of Frost as follow-up. And even then, your 20 tier is going to feel a little bit awkward. But Wintermute is just really, really good. It's a ton of extra damage, which Jaina is... It's what you're picking Jaina for. You pick Jaina for macro and for burst damage. And this just massively augments your burst damage, so I like it a lot. That's a good choice. Okay, the CDR buff is kind of a fake buff. It still does nothing if you miss. And also, the funny thing about these post-20 talents that offer CDR is a lot of times you only have one fight left after 20. A lot of times you have literally one fight left. And getting CDR in that fight might not change a lot. Unless it's something like Genji X Strike, where you can just do it back to back to back to back, or it's something like Junkrat's Riptire, which you can also do back to back to back. But a situation like this, where you shave off, like, hypothetically, like, half of Ring of Frost CD without just getting to cast it back and back over and over and over again, not as much as you might think in terms of CDR value. Anyway, I think that about wraps it up. Like I said, we're not really gonna do too much of that late game, because I think that's not really where the important stuff comes in. But that's what came to mind while watching your Jaina replay. Hope you enjoyed, and thank you for the gift subs, Ghastly.